saluto a tutti.
What's up, Juventus? Welcome back to the AJC. All right, it is the weekend. It's Saturday morning over here, and we are fired up and ready to tackle this one because it's been one hell of a week that sees our sporting director under heavy siege, heavy fire. All right, and we're ready to tackle all of it and what was this week. But I do think good things are set to come, and the news can kind of indicate that. But we are going to have some fun today. I got Omer, I got Trim with me. Fellas, how you doing today? Are you fired up? You ready to rock?
Yeah, obviously. Been fired up since
All
the
right.
big
Trim, you
March.
fired up, looking good in the new kit there.
Oh boy, well, feeling good in the new kit, but with the news around our team this week, it's not looking good, or at least some are thinking it's not looking good. So no, looking forward to tackling all the supposed issues that we have, and is the sky falling? Is Rome burning? I don't know. We'll find out, but we'll tackle it all today for sure.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have some fun. Before I get to all of it, of course, there are some announcements and some house cleaning that's gotta be tackled here. All right, number one, we're very, very close to the next jersey giveaway. All right, if you're not subscribed to the channel, have no idea what the hell you're waiting for. Okay, smash that subscribe button, get yourself entered. You could win that home kit that Trim is wearing and potentially the new third kit as well. So make sure you're subbed. As far as other announcements, we have a new member of the family as far as official fan clubs go in North America, and that is JOFC Windsor. So welcome to the family. If you're in that neck of the woods in Ontario, all right, reach out to us and we could put you in touch with who you need to speak to join this wonderful new official fan club. All right, and there was one other a long-time follower that reached out, and he's actually has a newborn son that is in NICU, so a new Juventino that is actually in the NICU unit, all right, after being premature. There are some struggles. The family is there with the Ronald McDonald House and everything, but we just want to send out, and of course, the youngster named Alessandro. We will know why, but thoughts and prayers out to our longtime AJC supporter right now as he goes through this with his family. All right, wishing for the absolute best there. Now, without further ado, Giuntoli under heavy fire. And of course, we can't forget the wonderful army here. All right, coming in here. Good morning. Ciao, Juventini, Alex P. Everybody's ready to fire up here. We've got weighing in on the transfer market already. I see Hermoso over Toribo. Don't worry, we're going to get into it all. But I got to lead you off. With the feelings, okay? This was put wonderfully by one of our subscribers, okay? Long-time followers back from when the AJC started, 2018, okay? 2018. So, 4 talented youngsters have been sold, including a potential starting right winger. Half the roster feels alienated after being placed on the transfer market. We have failed to buy our first and second center back options. We have failed thus far to sign our number one priority. Okay? And then it continues. We have fucked up our previously great relationship with Atalanta. We have thus far failed to agree a new contract with the player identified as being key to our project and future success. In this very moment, how should Juventini feel about Giuntoli's dealings in the mercato? Granted, there have been triumphs, but with 9 days to go until our first official match, 21 days until the end of the transfer window, we can and should be doing better. So, first off, much better wording than what I've seen on social media. That's a first off, all right? So, it may seem doom and gloom, but he put it very, very well in the approach, okay? And I really, really appreciate that from Roderick there, okay? Massive props for always firing great questions and whatever through WhatsApp and everything. But we got to tackle this, lads, and let's go down this one by one. 4 talented youngsters have been sold, including a potential starting right winger. So I would say that all of these are kind of a knock on Giuntoli. This is the Giuntoli against Giuntoli argument and everything. So let's kick it off with the youngsters that were sold, and including Matthias Sule. So Omer, kick us off with the youngsters sold.
So who are we talking about? Hoysen. You said let's include Sule.
Hoysen,
Barnechea.
Sule, Illing, Barnechea.
Yeah. Okay, so first of all, we knew there were going to be some sales. If it wasn't these guys, then it would be other guys like Vlahovic and maybe Chiesa and some guys that we didn't want, that no one wants to see leave. So yeah, I was kind of ready for that. I don't think it's that bad. Maybe I feel like the feeling toward those players are a bit exaggerated because none of them have actually really done something noteworthy to say, yeah, this guy is definitely top level and we can't let them go. There is potential, I agree, for all of them. But Sule, we've seen very little of in a Juve shirt. We've seen him here and there. He has 1 goal, I believe. But his best season has been under relegated Frosinone. Hoysen played for Roma more than he played for Juve and wasn't all that great. Barnechea was an interesting one. Too bad he had to leave, but overinflation of midfielders right now. And Illing might be the one who showed us the most. But again, those players have capital gain. That's the most important thing. No one wants the player who has no capital gain. And we had to fund the market somehow. So yeah, it is frustrating to some degree, but I wouldn't label those guys the same as like Dybala leaving or someone who has actually done something for Juve for a long time and been a big part of the system. So yeah, I feel like the feelings towards those players are a bit exaggerated for me.
Okay. And Trim, anything to add to Omer there on young guys?
Yeah, just to kind of add, I mean, of the 4, I think I would have liked to keep Sule. I think he had the most potential out of the 4 of them. I mean, depending, like Hoysen, the reason I don't really look at him in that kind of light is because I always knew that he's using Juve as a stepping stone, where Sule, I believed, really wanted to stick with the club and at least try to prove something before potentially moving on. So Illing and Barnechea wasn't really too worried about. But again, like Omer said, we needed to fund the market. So now it's more of I'm taking like the long-term view to see what do we do with that money, and if it helped fund the Luiz deal, the Thuram deal, and then potentially our number 1 target who's still out there and hopefully we're able to attain. But yeah, just in terms of those 4 specifically, they haven't shown enough. Obviously, you're looking long-term, thinking they're potential down the road in a few years' time, but they've yet to prove it. So I would have rather lose those 4 young guys than, let's say, selling a Vlahovic or a Bremer, because those are the 2 guys that I think would have had to be sold instead, because obviously we're seeing what's happening with Chiesa. Chiesa, once upon a time, was added to that group of potential sales with Vlahovic, Bremer, because it was one of the 3 we were saying last season that could have potentially been sold to fund the market, and we quickly realized that there's no market for Chiesa right now. So I'd rather go into this season with Bremer and Vlahovic than those 4 youngsters.
Yeah, if we're going to get into the youngsters, for me, it's been steady the entire time. And that's just simply the fact that you absolutely have to, and cannot ignore the books. And hindsight's 2020. Where are we at right now? If people wanted him to bank on selling the Deadwood to get the books right. And the other thing is, you don't move in this mercato, period. We wouldn't have even moved. We wouldn't have even have one move right now if we didn't move those players. Douglas Luiz is an instant upgrade to this team. A massive one too. That doesn't happen without one guy that didn't even have a contract figured out with Juve, and that's Illing Jr., And the other is Barnechea, who wouldn't even have space on the team. So those two, absolutely no problem. Huijsen and Sule are the ones that really shine the light because of the fact we are looking for wingers, number one. So Sule comes into question. And the other is because we were always fed that is going to be the one that gives us Koopmeiners and gives us Todibo. Now, Koopmeiners still in play. Okay? So still in play. But yeah, there's some feeling very nervous. Others feel okay about it. We'll get to Koopmeiners, right? The Todibo thing, we know how that went down, and we'll talk about that as well. But as far as these youngsters, if we were planning to bank on selling the Deadwood, I think over a month in the mercato now has shown us that would have been an absolute disaster. An absolute disaster. And then you go to move these young guys after the deals are there on the table. They might not be on the table, or they might be less, or the same deals might not be available. So you're really running a risk. I think it was less risk involved for him to get those guys out when he did, and then you work on the very difficult deals. You don't start off with those difficult moves and run that the whole course and try to bank your whole mercado on those guys. You can't do it. So for the young guys, I absolutely understand it, and I absolutely have no issues with it. The books cannot be ignored. And these other sales that are in question don't do much for the books either. We've already started dropping prices. You're looking at a lot of these deals trying to just break even. On some of them, like Szczesny, for example, we're even still thinking about potentially taking on some of the salary, you know? But then the question is, well, then why even bother with Di Gregorio? Because it's long-term build. That's why. So the two things that are key here, books and long-term building. As far as the young guys go, I don't have an issue. So let's go down the line. Half the roster feels alienated after being placed in the transfer market. Well, that one I'm going to say might be a little bit tough on the way we approached it and the way he treated it. But at the same time, in football, in sports in general, there are going to be times you're going to be shocked. And it happens. Them not playing, them not being a squad list. We have our next friendly tomorrow against Atletico. It is what it is, but yeah, maybe he's a little strict on that, but we've already seen Milik get reintegrated. I do question who else would really be integrated, and honestly, when we go through that list, we did it on the last live show, the only guy I'm looking at is Fede Chiesa. Outside of that, I don't really think that we need to panic over these guys feeling alienated. Where do you guys stand on the players that half this roster being alienated on that comment? I don't really necessarily agree. Trim?
Yeah, I mean, like, most of those guys, or in the case of like a McKennie, let's say, like they were told last year that they were out of the project. So I didn't really have too much of an issue with it. But what I would say is, like, I'm sure guys like, let's say Tech as an example, like there were whispers in the background that, you know, his salary is high, and, you know, if we do bring in Di Gregorio, that he may be on the market, or they might try to move him out. So someone like him, even a Milik, like, he's still refusing. He wants to stay. He's turning down offers because he wants to stay with Juve. Like, I commend him for that. Like, I appreciate the fact that he wants to play for Juve. But if the team wants to move you on, there comes a point where you just got to say, like, look, if that's what's got to happen for the benefit of the team, and for my, it's not like my career is over, I'm going to go play somewhere else. Like, you got to just move on. So
yeah,
I don't know. I guess you could make an argument that, yeah, it was too much too soon for the amount of players that were told they were out of the project. But at the same time, it's like, the new coach just came in. What do you expect? Like, he's got a certain philosophy. He wants certain players to play certain roles. So, I mean, I didn't have as much of an issue with it. That's pretty much the best way to put it. I didn't really have too much of an issue with it.
Omer, any thoughts on that comment of half the roster being alienated?
I'm kind of torn on that, because while I do agree with the method, they told everyone very early, and so there are no shocks during the transfer season. Everyone knew where they're headed, and that's being straight with your players, which I agree with. However, I don't like the alienation from the team, and just taking them out and separating them like they're this, this group. You don't train with us, you can't do what we do, because eventually maybe we'll have to bank on some of those guys, and it's not in anyone's best interest having those guys on the roster and not playing them. If they're here while it's September 1st, then you gotta use them at some point. And
Yeah.
so I don't like putting a certain team aside and telling them that you're not with us. I would have rather they all train together, but maybe that's how it works. Maybe that's what the players agreed upon. I have no idea. Would we miss those guys? I don't think so. Those weren't like world class guys that have to be here, except for Chiesa, maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know where I stand on this.
Yeah, and that's what I say when we went down that list. I mean, Arthur, McKennie, Rugani's actually one, and we'll get to it in a bit because I see the comments on, Coleman, Sterling, Rugani as well. We're going to get to all of that, believe me, but just working through this, Rugani's one I think that might have to be revisited. Chiesa, that's it, and Milik, just because, again, too much work. You don't want to give yourself too much work, so you can question those. But also in relationships, as I see comments about maybe how we dealt with the Chiesa situation, that's one that's been in constant discussions, but it's very, very hard. And we said this one on the last one, without knowing, because there's two parties involved, what's coming from Fede's side is really, really difficult. We are going to get more on Chiesa with the whole Enrico Chiesa thing involved. I do have a little bit of what the rumblings are out of Turin and whatnot on that, but we're going to carry on because that's covering half the roster feeling alienated, which we maybe somewhat kind of agree to. We have failed to buy our first and second center back options. I feel very strongly about this one. I feel very, very strongly about this one. And it's going to be short. It's going to be sweet. Calafiori's price changed to 50 million euros. We were never going to splash 50 mil on Calafiori. Period. End of. Italian or not, flat out, it wasn't going to happen. That's what went down. Okay, Giuntoli got the players' agreement. Yes, we had the agreement. That doesn't mean that we overextend ourselves, regardless of who it is. And I think Giuntoli has made it quite clear on that. And there's a lot of comments, and there was comments earlier in this chat, right at the start, before we even went live, saying that we respect Giuntoli for not overpaying. So, Calafiori, that's done and out. I'm fine with, is what it is. Doribo, this week, with this hijacking, you guys know where I stand. I don't feel it was a hijacking more so than Giuntoli backing out. He was at the table with Nice on Wednesday. That deal could have been completely wrapped up and it was not finalized. Why? Because Giuntoli decided not to. All right? It's not a coincidence that the next day West Ham rips in there to finalize it, and that's to make sure that Giuntoli doesn't have a change of heart, change of mind, and then go in. All right? He decided and backed away. Why? We wait and see on what the plan is. Maybe it's the attack. But I'm not going to blame him right now out of the gate and say just because top two targets at center back haven't worked out. Maybe we don't need to press, and maybe we don't need to bury that money into the center back position right now. Maybe Cabal shocked everybody, Mota and Giuntoli included, and maybe they want to go a different route. Maybe they decided they want to save some money there because of what's going on with the attacking situation, and they want to spend that there instead. But I'm not going to lose my mind over this one. And for me, I don't think it's a hijacking whatsoever. Omer, your thoughts on missing out on first and second options at center back?
Well, we kind of summed up Calafiori pretty well, so I have nothing to add there. Tolibo would have been nice. It was a good signing, in my opinion, but Giuntoli have to comply with his own rules of the transfer market and how much is he allowed to spend. Um, I think some of those deals that we're seeing popping off were kind of we needed to do that in order to afford uh, what's missing for Todibo, and it didn't go to plan. I guess Nice got stressed out because of the timing. They need the money too. West Ham, Todibo himself, but all this Rugani sold, Sekulov sold, and Gonzalez being loaned out. I believe one of those deals was supposed to fund like the rest of Todibo. But West Ham came with a higher offer, and that's what he chose. Fine. I don't feel too bad about it because I don't think center back should have been a priority to begin with. And that's one area we're stacked at. And after seeing and looking at the stats of Cabal, I think he can fill that role, to be honest. I would shift the focus and the money towards maybe a fullback and have Cabal there as rotation used wherever you need him. But the
So
style that Mota plays with moving the ball and playing high upfield, you need a guy like Cabal who has more speed and not like you understand
for
what I'm saying.
first off, when people hear the word stacked, it usually means like loaded with quality. That's what they usually pertain to stacked, that term, right? We're stacked as far as
Mhm.
bodies go in the back.
Yeah,
As far as pure quality, that's where the question comes in. But I actually agree. And we went over this in terms of how Giuntoli's been operating so far. And I think the back line is going to be just as strong, maybe equal to last season, which only conceded 31 goals. Granted, we played a very, very defensive brand of football. So a big question mark there on a completely contrasting style that we're going to go into this season with. But I do actually agree that at the back, and this is where Rugani comes in, this Rugani loan might have to be pulled back. And I would be okay with him staying. I'm also okay with, and going back to the youngsters, I always said, Hoyson or Facundo Gonzalez, one has to remain in our ranks. Facundo Gonzalez is still amongst our ranks. And maybe he comes in. I'd be okay with him being around. But I would feel comfortable with Rugani. But does he actually truly fit Mota's style? Based on playing the ball out from the back, well, you're not going to have Bremer and Rugani both there. That just doesn't work at the same time, anyways, for Mota's game. But could he adapt? Could he figure out? I don't know. The Rugani one for me, though, I would probably revisit. But Trim, where do you stand on this one in losing the top two center back targets? And feel free to share your thoughts on how you feel about the back line in general and Rugani's loan.
So Calafiori, you just put a bow on it. Don't even really need to touch on him. It's just the price changed, and it's as simple as that. With Todibo, what I would say for me personally is just like I feel the majority of our fan base, we get wrapped up in these transfer rumors. So I think a lot of it, especially for me, so I'll speak specifically to me, like you're hearing for the last almost month and a half, 2 months that Todibo is close, Calafiori is close, we're close, we're close, we're close. And then all at once, West Ham comes in and he's a West Ham player and you're trying to make sense of it. You're trying to put the pieces together as how the hell did this happen? Why is it not wrapped up like last week we kept saying, and why is it not wrapped up the 2 weeks prior? Why is it not wrapped up? So I feel like we get caught up in these rumors and deals when we look at it and take it for face value. It's like we mentioned this the other day. It's like how many of us have actually really watched and followed Todibo to know what kind of a player he is and how effective he could be for Mota? Like, I'll be honest, I haven't really watched much of him. Would I have liked him to play for Juve? Of course, because he was a rumored target. But again, everything has to make sense. It has to be the right money, the right deal, and we have to get the players willing. The deal has to get done. It didn't happen in the end. So yes, it's considered a failure because he was one of our targets. But Giuntoli obviously has a plan. Again, like we can't stress this enough. Like the guy clearly has option A, B, C, D, E, F, whatever you want to call it. So I personally am not too worried because my expectations for this season in this market has always been I have pretty low expectations because of what we encountered last year. We knew this is going to be year zero. So it's just more of there are, for me, other priorities. We completely revamped the midfield, like I mentioned last week, and that was the biggest priority for me. So, not to mention, we still haven't landed Coop. And if and when we do, it's like that's a grand slam in terms of the market for me. So, I think we needed to really focus on that midfield and now up front. So, to your point of center back being kind of a luxury or that back line. So, for Todibo, I'm not going to cry about it. There's going to be other options out there. I'm hoping that we are able to pick someone up before the end of the window, because with the back line the way it is right now, I would ideally like to pick up a fullback like Omer said, preferably on that right side, because we have the ability and flexibility of putting Danilo at center back. As much as we all don't like that and we'd prefer him to maybe play on the right side, like if you bring in another fullback, he has the flexibility to kind of mix and match. Again, profile wise, probably not a ball playing center back between him, Bremer, and I mean Cabal is probably the only one of the three that will be that ball playing center back. So we'll see. But and like you said, are we going to keep Rugani, or are we going to let him go on loan, or are we going to keep Facundo? I'd personally rather take a flyer on Facundo, let Rugani go. You know what you have with him. I think we have that kind of role filled already with Bremer. And again, if Danilo has to jump in every once in a while at center back too, they're kind of all three similar profiles in that sense. So I'd rather something different with the size of Facundo, and he can move the ball.
Here's where I question it. And the reason is because with Rugani, you actually do know what you get, and it's only a dry loan. All right. So Facundo Gonzalez was set to go out on a loan, and we haven't seen him in top flight minutes and whatnot. And that's what makes me question it and think that, you know what, we should probably keep Rugani around, let Facundo Gonzalez hit that Serie A loan and get those top flight minutes, right? Because I even hated when he first came to us and we loaned him to Sampdoria in Serie B. And I was like, man, get this guy somewhere in the top flight. But nonetheless, it is what it is. It's preference thing and whatnot. But you touched on something that I definitely wanted to touch on, and it's going into the media and what's swirling around and everybody thinking that Giuntoli's looking at this thing like this, okay? Yep. And to some of the degree, fans can kind of get caught in this tunnel vision, okay? Because here's Don Valentino, and I'm not picking on you, okay? But if your guys are going to rely on Cabal this year, there's no ambition left in the fans of Juventus. Cabal is good at potential, but having or saying he is a starter. Listen, this is completely talking about ambition and talking about what Juve wants to achieve is like exactly what I feel is going on with Giuntoli in general. 4 years of mismanagement does not get wiped out and erased like that in one friggin' summer. I understand the day and age that we are in, and everybody wants shit fast. Fast food, fast news, fast information, hit of a button. Everybody wants what they want, and they want it now. Guess what? Reality has to set in, and in the circumstances, it's like you're completely ignoring everything that's gone on. And all the signs of him trying to get it right are right there smacking you right in the face, because he is not overpaying on anybody. And if you look at the salaries of the guys coming in, they are all completely down from the top heavy hitters at Juve. Nobody has come in signed as high as even Fede Chiesa. Nobody has even come in signed higher than him. Koopmeiners is set to come in and not sign as high of a contract as Fede Chiesa, and he's our number one target out there. 4 years of overpaying everybody, and look at what's happening in this mercato. Who are the guys we are stuck on? Do you think these other clubs are going to give a guy like McKennie 5 million euros? He's at 2.5 with us, close to 3 million in net. He's not getting that anywhere, and we still can't move him on 3 million net. So to make this rush and go out there and get these guys, you're completely ignoring what has happened that has gotten us into this mess. And it is largely overpaying players, okay? Overpaying them. Big time. But Giuntoli's going back to tunnel vision. Giuntoli's not staring at 3 names on a list all day, every day, and he's like, okay, these guys, this is it. No, it's more like a wall or a draft board with names and potential options of the way that this mercato can shape up. And each and every move is a domino that immediately affects going down the line. And if one thing changes with one of those potential moves, he has to sit there and recalibrate and figure out, okay, well, if now this happens on this deal, what does this mean for this, and this? I think the priority has shifted and it has now become the attack. Okay? Midfield, one more midfielder will be coming in, and then the attack. And I think it's clear and it's evident. As far as the defending goes, he probably decided to save money. And we still need to make sales. Caviglia, 4.5 million, gone. 2 million with Sekulov. You've got another, 4 million coming potentially with Luis Hassa. It is what it is, okay? It is what it is. He's still working on getting up funds and moving. But as far as losing top options, it's also not in our hands. Koopmeiners could easily be retained against his will by Atalanta if they choose to. Are we going to shit on Giuntoli for that? I still think he's our top target. I still think he should go. And we should go after him. And we are. We got an assist from Cope. But if we don't land Cope, it's going to hurt. And it's going to be a stain because we've been fed that these other moves were solely for Koopmeiners. Well, they weren't necessarily solely for Koopmeiners. They're for the mercato in general. Because if you don't make the sales, you don't bring anybody in, period. You know? But having said that, I have always been, and I stand firm, I want Koopmeiners. Give me Koopmeiners. But we've done what we can. We could step up. We could step up to the money Atalanta ask, and they might still say, you know what? Tough titties. Too bad, so sad. And then what? Then you move on. But to sit here and think he's got absolutely nothing else planned or looked at, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it, you know? So it's tough. It's tough. He's doing what he's doing. I saw a comment, and this plays in with the Koopmeiners thing to one of the next ones. We have fucked up our relationship, our great relationship with Atalanta. Okay, I'm going to get into this before I fire it to you guys, boys. Okay, I heard and I read these posts stating that why on earth are we disrespecting Atalanta? And why would you go to the player and not spend time with the club? Are you joking me? So you wanted us to waste time dealing for a player, whatnot. What if you didn't even have the agreement for the player? That's the most ridiculous thing I heard. So you want to waste your time dealing with the club, go through all that work to try and make it work, try and figure out if you could still make it work with other plans in your mercato, only to then find out that you can't even sign the player because he doesn't want to come? No. You get the agreement of the player first. Make sure that you're going in on somebody that even wants to join Juve. Okay? Number 2, great relationship with Atalanta? Excuse me? How great is this relationship that we paid 40 mil for Kulusevski on a 1-year, 7-goal season? Okay? Paid a premium. We sent over Romero on peanuts. We sent over Demiral when they needed Demiral on peanuts. Everything else has been loans. What are we even talking about? Great relationship with look, if we're going to spend our time worrying about the relationships with other clubs in Serie A, it's redundant because they look at us a certain way and they treat us a certain way. It's a two-way street. Okay? It's amici di nessuno, and it's always going to be that way. If we go in Italy, we have to pay up. And it's always been that way. Period. You're not going to find the deals. You're not going to find the discounts like these other clubs are getting. Sadly, the only access we can get is with lower ranked teams that need players. that we can send guys that we need to go on loans to get minutes. That's sadly the reality of the axis we could create. But that's my feelings on this whole Atalanta relationship and Koopmeiners. It was always going to be premium. Omer, your thoughts on the Atalanta relationship?
I don't think there is a relationship. I think that they benefit from us having money. They used us when they knew we needed money. So yeah, I don't see the relationship, and all those relationships die. We had that with Sassuolo until it was not beneficial for them anymore, and then they started asking for 40 million for players and stuff. I don't think there's any good relationship between Juve and Atalanta. It's only business. Now I think Atalanta are actually kind of, being kind of a bitch about it, to be honest, because they
Big time.
knew you wanted to go to Juve for a long time. It's not like they got surprise in the beginning of August. It's been known since March. The player told them he wanted to leave, and they're getting a nice price for it.
Yeah.
Nice, no matter how you look at it. 55 million, 50 million for a player that plays in Serie A is a lot of money. And maybe you can argue that he is one of the best midfielders in the league, maybe top three, top two, and he deserves that amount. But still, that's a great price, and they're being kind of an assholes, in my opinion, the way they're acting right now.
And this has been flown around with all the top guys, is that they literally made an agreement because there was interest in Koopmeiners last summer. And Koopmeiners said, I will remain. But next summer, if a big club comes in, I want the move. And it was agreed upon. They turned down a very healthy offer on Koopmeiners last summer. Strong offers. Okay? Only 10 million away from what they're asking this season. They turned it down. They made an agreement with him. And now they're back, which is their right. They have the right to back out because they have until 2027. But then, it is what it is. But to claim blackmail and all this nonsense, what are we even talking about? It's ridiculous to me. Trim, this whole Atalanta relationship.
So yeah, they're I don't know. Like Omar said, we don't have relationships with these Italian teams, or they're not good. Like, everybody's always trying to take from you. They take advantage of us. They already are with the price for Coop. So I'll keep it short and sweet. For me, I've been dying to talk about Coop in particular. He's my number one target. He's the guy I want the most. So this is what I say. Giuntoli, stop nickel and diming. Put the $60 million offer on the table right now and see if they balk at it. If they balk at it and they say, no, it's actually more, then that's when you say, okay, close the briefcase. You say, we're done. We're walking away. And then you can tell the fan base that, look, we offered them the money they asked, even though we know it's overpaying, according to everybody out there that's a fan, which to me, it doesn't make sense, because if you go anywhere in the world, Liverpool, Real Madrid, like teams that were interested in Coop would pay $60 million for Coop. He's worth every penny. So he's worth the $60 million price tag. Again, I know it's more than what we want to pay, but just pay the money or offer the $60 million and then see. If they balk at it and they say, no, we want more, then you walk away, and that's it. Simple as that. There's no more playing around now. You've been trying to negotiate 50 plus 2 or 50 plus 3 bonus, 50 plus 5 bonus. Like, enough's enough. Go and get him. Put the $60 million on the table. You have the money now that Todibo, you didn't get him. I understand that there's other factors that play into it in terms of you're trying to save money for, let's say, Nico Gonzalez and some of these other targets. I get that. But we didn't get Todibo at the 35 or 40 that we were going to offer. So just put the $60 million for Coop. If they turn it down, then they're not serious. They don't want to sell him to you. And that's it. And then the player can, deal with it on his own. Because again, the players wanted Juve since this past season. They had an agreement to sell him this summer, and they're right now not staying. Not staying true to that offer or that negotiation or deal between the two club and player. So just put the $60 million down, see what happens, and if, like I said, if they turn it down, then you walk away. It's as simple as that. Because then it shows that they're not serious about selling him at that price.
So there's a lot to kind of work with here on this whole Koopmeiners thing. So I see a comment here. We will pay for Koopmeiners. He is not worth more than 45, laughing emoji and whatnot. So you're telling me he's only worth 10 million more than Nico Gonzalez? That's actually laughable. He definitely is worth more than that. And they continue. No team's coming in for 60 mil on Cope. He had offers last summer at 50 million euros, which isn't far off. Juve pushing for 50 is around what he was getting offered last season. It's all a game, and they're all trying to play. Juve's like, hey, you guys had around this last season for him. We want to be around that. And overall, it sounds funny when you're sitting there at the table for your top target, who has been listed as your top target for a while. 55 million euros is the rumor that Juve's going in on. For an extra 5, Trim says just get it done and just go in and just do it. But again, going back to my point, maybe every single million actually counts towards the rest of the moves, and maybe it's a domino effect. They're pushing for the best. I think they feel, and this is where I start to question Giuntoli a bit for me. Hanging on players' will may be a bit too much. Maybe a bit too much on the will, and it's time to shit or get off the pot type of thing. Because how long has he been pushing? And this is why I think media leads us to believe that these dealings are going a certain manner and they could be completely off. I want to start off with just saying the offers. The offers for Koopmeiners. According to media, there's been like 17. There's been 1. And we ended up finding that out much later. So in our minds, we're thinking, my God, like just step it up, step it up, step it up. There's been 1. There's been 1. And then, what did I say? A recalculation. I don't think it's anywhere near the picture that the media plays. Okay. And while we always, obviously, we work off that because they're discussion topics and we have to talk about it. We have to cover the scenarios. But I've always said, take it with a grain of salt, everything from everyone, and just watch how things play out. But there are things that are clear. Giuntoli is very strict financially right now and has been. So questioning the previous moves. I've seen this out there. Should have never got Douglas Luiz. Should have got Koopmeiners immediately. How do you guys feel about that one? Everybody in the live chat, weigh in on this one. Should we have not picked up Douglas Luiz and went all in on Koopmeiners from the get-go?
I don't think it was possible in either way. To get Douglas Luiz over the line, we needed to add some players. Apparently, Atalanta don't want any Juve players, and we didn't have that 55-60 million to pay at the beginning of the transfer market. Like, there was a plan. It seems like they are following the plan. But Luiz was an option because Aston Villa needed the money as well before June 30th. So there were other factors. Saying that they should have done it, if like we had 100 million to spend, sign Coop first. But if you have to maneuver the market, that was the best option at the moment.
Not only that, though, I just want to say that, remember, we're having an issue with Atalanta selling us Coop right now. What makes you think they would have sold them to us at the beginning of the market? Clearly, they wouldn't have, right? So it literally, that's the trump card for me when it comes to this whole thing. Just use your common sense, people. If they're not selling them to us right now, what makes you think we could have bought them at the beginning of the market? Like, it literally, you're contradicting yourself if you're saying that. Because they're not selling them right now. You didn't have that money even for Luiz until the sales. So the fact that Aston Villa was able to take those 2 players, Omer hit it right smack dab on the head. Yeah. They're in a situation where they got to comply with FFP, and they are trying to pick up players as well that helps them. So it helped them on their books. It helped us on our books, and we picked up a guy instantly walks into our lineup. No problems with that deal. We still needed sales beyond for Cope. So, there's no regrets there for me on that one. And, we talk about we have thus far failed. This was the last point from Roderick. We have thus far failed to agree a new contract with the player identified as being key to our project and future success, and that would be Fede Chiesa.
unless he's talking about Kenan Yildiz. Is he talking about Kenan Yildiz? So, number
No.
one, I don't know if we're at the point of putting everything, and there was serious doubts in not just Chiesa, but even Vlahovic in putting either one of these guys as key to our future success. If it's Kenan Yildiz, it's way ahead of the game, and we know that the latest contract talks, apparently we want to put up $1 million. He's looking for $3 million. This is the rumors. Nobody knows if it's in fact true or what the situation is, but the contract renewal goes on. Chiesa's situation is ugly. I can't really say much more other than the fact that maybe Giuntoli is being a little bit strict, but what the hell is coming from Fede Chiesa's camp too? Because he hasn't got strong offers. You know, you've got his dad out there rumored to be trying to slap some sense into his agent and him and realize, hey, you play at Juventus. You know, we hear this quote and I'm trying to figure out where exactly it's come from 100%. But, it was said that this came from his father. Enrico Chiesa wanted his son to play the Euros and get married without any distraction. He did not realize what a mess his son and his agent created, stating to his son, do you realize who you are playing for? This is Juventus. But what I was hearing to play on to this whole Enrico Chiesa thing, okay, is this. This was coming out of Turin, is that Enrico got involved when he was reached out to by a figure. This figure was not revealed. It's said to believe to be one of an ex-Juve player. Okay? I'll give you my thoughts on who I think it was after, but apparently it was reached out to him at how Chiesa's rep is actually looked at. Not just from the Juve side, but from a national scale in Italy. And this is what kind of led to Enrico starting to hear about Enrico get involved and his involvement. The thoughts and the theory on who it was is, there you go, smack dab right at Gigi Buffon. It's rumored to have been Gigi Buffon because he was coming from the national team side of things. And then he spoke on Juve, and Gigi still obviously will always have connections with Juve, but obviously, and this is a former teammate of Enrico, someone who is very close. I believe it. I would not be surprised. All right. But is it beyond repair? And is Giuntoli being too strict in this? Maybe Chiesa still doesn't want to take the renewal because maybe it's not at the, so I see this comment a lot. Just re-sign him because now he'll accept less. Will he though? Because Chiesa knows the only shot he has at money similar to ours or potentially a little bit more is if he goes on a free. If a team does not have to pay a transfer fee for Fede Chiesa, that's the best chance he has at that big money. So where is his head at? Would he rather stay at Juventus and play with us at the money he's at now or lower, or does he want to do that? Has he been insulted from his side? I don't know if it's repairable. And that's why this whole Chiesa thing is so difficult to break down because you don't know. Could he be reintegrated like Milik and just say, okay, yeah, we tried, we can't find anything, reintegrated? It's almost hard to see that too, right? I don't know what to say.
I don't know. To me, it doesn't look like it's repairable just based on the fact that we're not hearing anything out of Chiesa's side of things, like one way or the other. There's no he's pissed off or, he's considering renewing. He loves the club. Like the only thing that we know is everybody's following his Instagram. He put a couple white and black hearts with a picture of him in a Juve shirt, and that's about it. Since being reintroduced into training earlier this week. But still, it's a tricky situation. I mean, I can't see them working something out unless he just buries his pride and just says, you know what, like you said, take the renewal, even if it's a year, and play the year out and see what happens. But to your point, he obviously sees it as more beneficial to him financially to just try to play out this year and walk into next summer free. And regardless of the team, if it's Inter or whoever he goes to, tries to maximize his salary then, or stay more or less where he is now, as opposed to taking a salary hit, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know. Obviously, on the field, we would benefit from him staying. Like, let's just put that out there. We would benefit from him staying because we know the quality of player he is. Some people, however, would argue that and say, would we benefit from that? Like, he didn't really offer much last year or the previous year, so he's coming off of a couple of down seasons, right? Consistency.
I think he's a quality player, but I think he's got something to prove. And I was definitely hesitant on jumping into a renewal for him. You know, on several years at the money or more money than where we're at now. There's nothing wrong with the money he's at. I've always said the 1-year bridge is great for Fede Chiesa. But the thing is, should he be insulted? Should he be insulted by what went down? I don't think he should be, based on how Giuntoli has acted. So while they want to say, oh, well, Giuntoli's led this thing and been a mess, has he though? Because we gave Rabiot a deadline. The deadline, and he benefited from growth decree, which Chiesa does not. But we gave him a deadline. The deadline passed and we said, see you later. We've signed players. Nobody that's come in has made as much as Fede Chiesa currently makes. So we haven't pissed him off in a sense that he's not getting fair value amongst the team. He's actually third highest, only behind Szczesny and Vlahovic. And Vlahovic we also have to work on. And Giuntoli has made it clear that we got to work on that. So I don't know if he really has a right to be insulted. He was given a deadline. He passed it. He went into the Euros. That was a decision he made. And Enrico Chiesa, you know, if there's any truth to that saying from him, is that he kind of wanted him to go through with all that without distractions, but maybe didn't realize about the repercussions because Giuntoli apparently wasn't bluffing. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Omer.
Look, well, I think there are too many unanswered questions in this whole Chiesa saga, but I am pretty certain that it has nothing to do with Mota. This predates Mota.
100%.
It's not. They're not going through that because Chiesa doesn't fit tactically to Mota's system. That's bullshit. Don't believe that for a second. Now, Enrico had to intervene, and there is a huge problem here. The level for a player right now is judged by how much money he makes, and that's where the expectations stand. But a guy like Enrico knows that the loser here would be Fede. Sitting on the bench and not being a player, a starting player for your team at your age right now, just based off money, would damage Chiesa a lot. Missing a season at his age would be awful for him. And Enrico knows that. Enrico knows that Chiesa has to play. That's why he has to sort it out. And it became like a battle over money that has nothing to do with playing football. And look, we always go back to the 6 guys who went to Serie B with Juve and decreased their salary, and they were at their peak and could have gone anywhere. But money was not an issue. There were other priorities. Now, Chiesa still makes a lot of money, and he needs to do what's best for his career. And the best thing for his career right now is not a higher salary. It's playing football on the field, getting over his injury. And it doesn't seem like it's heading that way. That's why Enrico had to intervene. And it's something that's missing from the football world in general. I mean, look how easy was the Di Gregorio deal. It's not good for Monza, but Galliani knows Monza is not Juve. And when you have a chance, you have to aid the player in playing the best place for him. And Juve is better than Monza, so it didn't make it difficult for Juve or for Giuntoli. He said goodbye to Di Gregorio and wished him well. That's how you need to do it. You have to take the player's future into consideration, and his future is not at Monza. And Chiesa has to figure out where he wants his future to be, but either way, he has to play. His value is so low as it is. Where do you think his value would be after not playing an entire season? And
Yeah.
yes, Juve would suffer financially, but we'll get over it. Chiesa wouldn't get that year back.
Yeah. It's going to be just a lot of questions around there, but we don't know the specifics. Alex P coming in here saying, how can we ignore Chiesa's past 2 seasons? He hasn't even earned his current salary. And I mean, again, going back to the guy that's at the root of everything right now under heavy fire, and that's Giuntoli, not trying to overpay guys. Not trying to overpay guys. Is Chiesa overpaid? I think based on our roster, I would have to say maybe not, because he still was the most dangerous player offensively for us. Sadly, because I think he's capable of much more, but he still was our most dangerous. Last year, the stats could have been a hell of a lot better if guys finished some of his setups, if he finished a lot of goals he could have had. But ultimately, there's also a lot of his excuses around Chiesa, and this whole left wing fucking second striker nonsense that drove me nuts all last season. At the end of the day, players play and winners win. Put up or shut up. So I feel like there's maybe a little bit of entitlement there from Chiesa. But like I said, that's just me. That's my feelings, because I don't know 100% what's going on behind the scenes. But it's a difficult scenario. But that really was everything Roderick brought up from a stance of questioning Giuntoli. And at the end, in summary, he says, in this very moment, how should Juventini feel about Giuntoli's dealings in the mercato? Okay? For me, I'm not going to say how Juventini should feel, because you feel however the hell you want. I'm just going to share how I personally feel. I still personally feel Giuntoli is on the right track of correcting the wrongs that have come before him. And sometimes I feel like he's being shot at for stuff he had nothing to do with, that he's just the cleanup guy for. He's the face of this mess, even though it's not his mess. That's how I legitimately feel. Guys coming in have not even reached Chiesa's wages. The deals were not overextending, overpaying for anybody in the mercato. Giuntoli's known for being tough to deal with. Is he too tough to deal with? Hey, time will tell. But
got a tough situation.
We need a guy that's tough like that in the situation we're at. Omer just hit it on spot on the head. For me, I still feel confident in Giuntoli, and there is 21 days remaining. Okay, 20 days. 20 days remaining in the mercato. I know the season starts soon, but to be honest, you don't clean up 4 years of mismanagement, loose wages in one summer while you're still financially restricted. That's a dream. That's a dream. Okay? But so far, all the moves have been good.
Yeah. I want to chime in. That's an important remark you made about the market has 21 more days, not 9 more days till the season starts. We should be able to beat Como with the guys we have right now, even without Koopmeiners. Sometimes deals get dragged to the last day of the summer. It's fine. It happens, and it doesn't seem like we are the one who are making it difficult. It's the clubs that we're trying to buy from. And Giuntoli has done what he can with the restrictions we have. I mean, we came off a fucking year and a half of having no money, being dragged to court, points deduction, whatever, and you want to start overspending now. All eyes are on us. Now, we got to remember the team will be judged by the way they play on the field for the entire season. Don't make too many assumptions of the transfer market. Okay? And even if we don't spend enough, and even if you don't like a guy like Cabal, even though that's what Juve used to do, buy them young with the potential and develop them, not buying the stars for 60, 80 million. That was the past Juve that everyone talks about and loves so much. And so at the end of the day, wait. At least until you've seen, like, I don't know, 10 matches, 15 matches. Start judging by December if this team is good enough or not. And eventually, what it will all amount to. Even if we don't spend enough, will it amount to? You can't eat at $100 restaurant with $10, or this is the project. It takes time, and we have to build, and it doesn't all happen in one summer. And you gotta be patient with your expectations. That's where it lies. If you want immediate success, but we can't guarantee that. Not over one summer, not
Yeah.
over just starting a project. We'll have to just wait. That's the reality.
Before we get to trim, I just want to say for me personally, one other little tidbit is I feel like what we're doing now is actually probably 3 years too late. Like this should have actually been when we went through that transitional phase and we were actually going to go to a new philosophy. We were going to do all that. Like this is the way it should have been treated in the first place. And it was not. This is where we thought we were years ago. And maybe that's why a lot of the fan base is frustrated with right now, because we feel like we've already gone through that. We haven't actually truly ever committed to that transition, that change, that actual rebuild. What you're seeing now is a full-scale takeover style rebuild. And we might have believed, some of us might have believed that that's what was going on before, but we never actually committed. It was something that we questioned on this show full on throughout these years. We're doing shit half-assed. Now it feels like it's not half-assed. Like they're diving into this build and this project like full on. Some sacrifices had to be made. They had to be made. And we knew going into the summer sacrifices were going to be made. Trim, your thoughts on Giuntoli overall and how you personally feel.
So how I personally feel is I have absolutely no issue with Giuntoli right now and the way that he's approached things. You can nitpick here and there with every manager, sporting director, every team in terms of questioning who they're going after, whether they got certain players. But like Omer said, at the end of the day, ultimately, it's going to be assemble the team now and see what happens on the field. Me personally, I learned from last season. I had really high expectations for us last year. I thought we were going to win the Scudetto. I've said it on other platforms at one point throughout the year last year, and I quickly realized that I was wrong. There was a lot more damage here within the club than I expected based on the roster we had. So we were told this is going to be year zero. We're finally seeing that it's become and starting to transition into a year zero where we're only going to continue to improve and get better from here. The guys completely retransformed our midfield, which was our weakest position in the previous seasons. We've been crying for a midfield of a Pogba, Vidal, Marquisio, Pirlo since the 2015-16 days, and we now don't have something exactly the same, but I mean, Luiz, Thuram, Fagioli, Luca, like that's a strong midfield. Bring in Koopmeiners, everything changes. It just further increases the quality in that midfield. So we now have a stronger midfield. We have to improve our front line behind Vlahovic and get some more wingers to go along with the attack as well. And our defense is still, like you said, the same guys that only conceded or allowed 31 goals last season. Obviously, that's going to change this year because of Motta's style, so it may open us up a little bit more. But again, until we go out on the field, we're not going to be able to know for sure how it's going to all play out. But I have absolutely no problems with Giuntoli. I actually just read the comments that come in from our listeners that say that it's a complete failure this market. We don't know what we're doing. Giuntoli's got no clue. I say to those people, you got to lower your expectations a bit. And I don't want to hear people come at me and say, oh, this is Juventus. We should always strive for the best, this, that, and the other thing. It has nothing to do with that. It's just this is the reality of the situation that we're in. All sports teams go through transitional periods. And, I mean, we've been waiting 5 years to win a Scudetto, going on our fifth season or sixth season now, going into this year. If we have to wait another season, we have to wait another season. But ultimately, in the end, we're putting in the pieces in the foundation to be a strong, successful team for the next 10 to 15 years to come. So I have no issues with Giuntoli and the way he's approached everything right now.
It's very tough. I mean, obviously, and I think the goal is still to compete, obviously.
Yeah,
But we
100%.
can't ignore, and this is where, I find myself getting, involved in some heated discussions around this, is because our expectations, our aim, our goal, obviously, always to fight for everything. Fino alla fine. I understand that, and I'm with that. But it does not erase the circumstances and the scenarios behind everything. The financials don't get blown away because we say, rah, 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 we got to be in on everything. Well, okay, great. You don't walk into a boardroom facing 342 million in debt and say, God damn it, fino alla fine. Let's go out and buy Mbappe. It's the reality of the situation, so it can't be erased despite always wanting Juve to compete and be at its prime. I see people talking about the Moggi era. And I'm leaving this comment up by Swarit because we are going to tackle that before we get to Storm the Barn. But the Moggi era was night and day, everybody. You had Serie A still strong, very, very strong at that time. You had Juve, through the Moggi era, starting to build an absolute juggernaut. The league as a whole is nowhere to what it was at that time. Financial restrictions were not there for Juventus. And Moggi cooked. Moggi worked the market in a crazy fashion. But he also duped people left, right, and center to get some of those moves. And I'm curious to see how some would look at that this day and age, because I see us slandering Giuntoli for getting a player's agreement first. It's wild to me. Completely different eras. Completely different eras. But don't kid yourself, because Moggi duped many, and pulled some sneaky shit. But I love the guy. Always will. And I still say, without 2006 and that big load of horse shit, that's what fucked the league up. That's what fucked the league up.
Yeah.
Biggest conflict of interest ever, and it ruined the league. And it changed everything for the course. But I digress. Now, this mercato can be rated 5.5 out of 10. Agree or disagree. He continues, I gave this rating because of the situations around Fede, Coop, Dodibo, and Galeno/Gonzalez. We have some ratings coming in. 7.5. Tuna Steaks is at 7 out of 10. Salvatore, 7. We got Alex P, 6 out of 10, but he'll have work to do in the winter still. Let's get to the ratings before Storm the Barns. Where we at? Where are we at on ratings? Trim, what's your rating for the Mercato so far?
7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 is a perfect sweet spot for me. Anything lower, I think, is way too harsh. Anything higher, I mean, it's not a bad thing, but for me, 7's a sweet spot. You get Coop, that instantly goes to an 8, 8.5, and I think that's as good as we're going to get for this window.
Okay. Omer, what's your rating?
Well, I was a 6, 7 like last week.
Yeah.
And nothing has changed, basically. A player that didn't play for Juve is still not playing for Juve. And that's about it. Everything is exactly the same. So, yeah, I'm still here. Like, let's go with 6.5.
I'm going to say that I'm at 6.5, 7-ish. And the reason is, and why it's not a fail, even in general, away from the rating system, I would say the question is, how do you establish success in this mercato? And I'm going to put it that way. How do you establish success in this mercato? For me, it's simple.
That was the question. That was an interesting question. Let me change the question a bit for you. What would be a 10? What would you define as a 10 out of 10 mercato?
A 10 out of 10, which would have been insane to achieve, is progress, is actual impact boost at all phases of the pitch, which I didn't expect.
And now
So
you ask the question.
success in the mercato for me, and why it's not a failure, is massive revamp, and in my opinion, on paper, boost to the midfield, which has been a detriment for years. Big boost already, I think. Already, I'd say that's boosted.
Yeah.
The attack, it's still yet to be decided. 6.5, 7 out of 10. But in defense, we haven't lost anything. And I think it'll be just as strong or equal to last season. It's not a failure for me. It's not a failure right now. If we leave the attack skinny and only boost the midfield, defense stays the same, then I think you're at a 5 out of 10. Like, it might drop like, holy Christ, we didn't do enough. Because the attack right now for me is still a big concern. If that gets left and isn't resolved in a satisfactory fashion, then I think you even out the mercato. You've boosted the midfield, but you maybe haven't done enough in attack. You can even out. But right now, we are on track to boost the attack and have a midfield that's revamped and boosted. We have the potential to still hit an 8.5 out of 10 mercato.
Yeah, like 10 out of 10 should be basically unreachable.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be something crazy. So automatically we can aim for 10. So 8 might be very high.
Yeah.
By our own definition. I think we're still at 6.5. I think there are improvements that can be made. No, it's not realistic to find a world-class replacement for everyone, as some people would argue that that's what Juve should do. The answer to this question is always spend more money. Renew Chiesa, that's more money. Sign Calafiori, more money. Koopmeiners, everything involves money. So how do we revamp the squad without overspending? That's what Giuntoli is trying to do. So by that standard, what is a 10? What is a 5? Okay, because if you tell me 10 is not realistic, then why are we even discussing it? Why is it even an option? Let's start from 9 and downwards.
Yeah.
This comment from Alex, guys, we're -5 players had a non-existent bench last year. Now it's worse. 6 out of 10 is generous. That is because things are not complete, man. -5 players, but what's going to happen? You've already seen Milik get reintegrated. Who else is going to get reintegrated? It's not all said and done. So you have to wait. It's not benefit of the doubt. It's the fact that there's 20 days remaining in the mercato. But as far as the actual moves that have gone down have been good moves. Let's just wait. Let's just wait and see. But for some, it all lies on Koopmeiners. It all lies on Koopmeiners, whether this thing is a success or it isn't. All right? Let's see what actually goes down. I fail to believe that there's no reintegration on any of these guys that are on that list. But honestly, a lot of them, nobody in the midfield even makes the depth chart right now. Okay? Miretti looks like he might be staying. Caviglia's being sold. Savona's probably going to stay with the first team. That's fine. It's going to be a depth option anyways. You got versatility all over the place. Cabal, Cambiaso, Danilo, etc. Versatility is huge for them. Still have Gatti, still have bringing in a CB. We'll see a CB come in. Kiwi or whatever. We'll talk about some of these options, okay? But it's not said and done. So just like we could say, I feel like a lot of the doom and gloom is kind of on stuff that's up in the air. Yeah, right now at this moment, we need some players. Yeah, well, the mercado's not done. But if I'm judging on what he's actually done so far, yeah, it's going to be a good score.
Yeah.
And again,
a lot of our expectations are built on media, on what we hear from the media.
Big time.
We hear a name,
But to each their own. You guys are welcome to feel however you want to feel. Is it a fail? Is he failing?
No.
Some want to wait. Some call it a failure already. Some don't believe it's a failure. It's going to be something that's very, very... he's always going to be scrutinized. You're never going to go to Juve and not be under scrutiny, under fire, under a microscope. But I still say, for this particular moment in time, I believe Giuntoli is the face of someone else's mess. And I stand firm on that one. Now, storm the barn. But before we get to that, you guys have been just on fire in the chat today. Guys, drop a like, okay? Holy Christ. All you guys in there, take a second, all right? Let's slap one on there. Let's keep this thing rolling. And let's get to storm the barn. Right out of the gate, a logical perspective would be that such a change in players and coach requires time to gel. How much time are you willing to give this project? Well, just like the last guy that came in, the first season is almost, unless it gets ridiculously ugly, I mean, you take the first season in stride and see where you are, but progress has to be made. But there is going to be some leash there on a first year. But to say how much time is almost impossible for me, because it really depends on the context around the team and how they're performing. On paper is one thing. We could finish this mercato feeling great, but at the end of the day, Mota's the guy that's got to work with whatever the hell he has. And how that pans out, we'll see. But it's hard to pinpoint a timeline for me, not having seen this team even play for half a season. For me, it's going to be all dependent on performances. I can't even lay a time on this thing right now.
Well, the things stand now. Mota's just signed. I'd say minimum 2 seasons, unless, again, things are really, really bad.
Yeah.
But unless that's the case, 2 transfer markets, 2 full seasons, 4 transfer markets, actually. Yeah, new tournaments, everything. I mean, we have to take everything into consideration and see how it grows out. It's very hard to say right now. I mean, saying that after 1 season, that's the time we're giving him, 1 season, then we'll find ourselves in the same spot arguing over the same things next summer.
Yeah.
So I would say a minimum of 2 seasons.
3 years to win a title. I'd give this project 3 years. Don Valentino, I'd give this project 365 days. First year with 4 competitions. We will do good at the end of one of them. Plenty of games to mold the squad for next season. It's hard to put a time frame, but you don't want to create a carousel. That's not going to help anybody, right?
No.
So, unless things get very, very ugly, we have to give it some time. For me, the first year is a gimme, especially with so much change. Like, it's almost a gimme, But there are going to be expectations. My expectations, I said, it's almost not even like finish related. Like, top 4 is bare minimum. I don't even want to talk about not getting top. Like, top 4 is a must. It's just bare bones minimum. Yeah. I want to see us competing, match in, match out with anybody we face, and being a tough opponent, being a tough out. If we lose, I want us to be the team that was extremely difficult to defeat. That's what I want. That's what I'm looking for year 1. That fight that Grinta built some of that gel with the team, get some chemistry, and then bolster it and move. But it's hard to just say 3 years, because if that second year goes to shit, it ain't going to make 3 years, because we still have to be realistic. It's tough. It's tough. Next one up. Who is going to be our, oh my God, the sponsor? What was that last one? Ital Airways or whatever?
Yeah.
Got thrown out there. I heard that if we don't know by Ferragosta, there is the potential that we're going into the season without a sponsor on the kits, a main sponsor, but I don't really believe that. So that was the rumblings, but I don't really believe that. I think a deal is done. I think there's a big announcement that's going to be coming out. It'll be done by their content creators labs, but I couldn't tell you who it is. I could not tell you who it is. And I'd be shocked if after everything we were hearing, it's Ital Airways. I would really be shocked if it ends up being them, because that doesn't fit the bill for what we were hearing around the main sponsor. No disrespect to that airline, but it doesn't fit the mold of what we were hearing. All right, so we'll see. We'll see. Do you see Juve selling Fede to Inter or a direct rival for 10 to 12 million euros in the last week of August? That would be an unpardonable crime by Giuntoli. Your thoughts? Swarit, first off, my thoughts go out to you, man, during this period of time. I know how big a Chiesa supporter you are, and this must be just hell day in, day out for you, man. Feel for you, but we talked about this one on the last one. It came up again. Would you do it? It's that take something or get nothing in a year. I think what would end up, do you integrate him into the team? Does he play for you? Where's the relationship at? Because if all's well enough to have him integrate and play out the year and you treat it as a 1-year loan, a very, very expensive loan, they can all wait, in my personal opinion. If we're breaking even on it at the end of the day, they can all wait. Inter can wait. He can wait. Screw it. Not going to a direct rival. No, not for me. Guys, Trim?
Yeah, I've kind of been like flip-flopping back and forth on this because I feel like we would want the money and just take the money and get him out because it's kind of been a distraction and a little bit of a headache more from management and the player side of things. But at the same time, for me, obviously I'd be silly to think that, or to not think that he would be a benefit to us on the field and just play out the year. Like, again, for us, Al, I know specifically, we see this a lot in North American sports where guys go into contract years all the time and it's like nothing and they just play out the year. And then oftentimes the team and the player come to the round table at the end of the season and then they either negotiate an extension or a deal or they facilitate a move or the guy walks to free agency, right? So in this case, it's not as common, obviously, in football, but I would be okay with him just sticking around and playing out the year because a lot can happen one way or the other, good or bad. I mean, he can blow the doors off this season and score a bunch of goals and have a career year, and then Juve can try to re-sign him or offer him an extension, and then he can just tell us to piss off and he can go get his money somewhere else. Great. At least we benefit from him having a strong season, right? Or he can tear his ACL again and that's it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it can go either way. So for me, I'm okay with him sticking around even if he's not signed to an extension.
Yeah.
As long as he plays, I should say, as long as he plays, because I know everybody's saying, oh, put him in the stands. I don't think they're going to put him in the stands. I don't know. I could be wrong, but...
Well, that's the thing, is nobody has any idea where that relationship actually stands. But I'm telling you right now, they can all wait if that was the case. For me, especially if it's just break even. Matt saying, I'm still hoping it gets sorted out. He gets reintegrated. I think we're all, well, not Alex P, but we're all kind of hoping that is the case. Omer, the question posed to you, would you make that move at, 12 million euros last week of August and move him to Inter?
It's a tough one. Like, because the alternative is either renewing or losing him for free next summer. I still wouldn't sell him to any Inter, Milan, Napoli, whoever is a direct rival, because I do believe there is a good player there. So I still hope, and that's my gamble, that he survives the summer and he stays with the team and he gets reintegrated. That's my gamble.
Yeah.
And that's what we should do. To be completely honest, if you have a player in your roster, sometimes you gotta accept that that's what you have right now, and you have to deal with it, and you have to use everyone you have.
Yeah.
Especially a player as talented as Chiesa. Now, Chiesa's side of things, we've talked a lot, so I don't want to add anything. I would not sell him in the last week of the market for anything under the value that you would deem fit, especially not to top Serie A clubs.
Yeah. Yorio saying the relationship is broken. I don't think it's fixable. That might very well be the case.
Yeah.
Might very well be the case. We're going to try and rifle through some more, then we're going to talk a bit about some of the rumors, some of the news, some new stuff popping up right now. Realistic expectations for Juve this season. Asking this again. Hey, we kind of tackled that there. You got to wait and see. Let's wait till we get the team actually built.
Yeah, I want to
And
see the
see
end
a
of the
little
mark.
bit more from the gameplay. It's very, very tough right now. I will say this though, top 4 without even thinking about it. Top 4 for sure. But like I said, are we going to be able to compete with the top? A lot of it, and something I start to see creeping up in the chat here, I said coach's influence is going to be massive. All right. And this
For
team,
everyone, by the way.
this team was
14
always,
teams.
yeah, you're right, because there's been a carousel around the league, big coaching carousel. But we are going to see coach's influence have to play a massive part. This team was always heading to be somewhat incomplete at the end of a financially restricted mercato. Always. So let's see, but very, very difficult to kind of pinpoint right now. Maybe still a little bit too early. Would you rather end the mercato with option 1, Koopman loan, Gonzalez loan, Koopmeiners 60 million, Hermoso free, or option 2, Galeno 30, Gonzalez loan, Cope 60, Kiwior loan, or end it another way?
Just going strictly on the players' names, I would go with option 1. Although I don't think Koeman is an option because of the salary, mostly. So option 2 seems a bit more realistic to me.
All right.
Yeah, I like option 2 better, but I'd actually flip Hermoso for Kiwior. Like I like Hermoso better as an option. And I think Galeno is more of a healthy option and will produce more than Coleman. Coleman is just kind of a flyer gamble because of his health status. Like we know what he is as a player. Obviously, we've seen him play. We once owned him, obviously, and we've seen what he's done at Bayern, but just too inconsistent with the injuries. So I'd rather Galeno. But right now, he's kind of been put on the back burner. So Nico Gonzalez seems to be the number 1 option at the wing position right now, which is, I think, a smart move. So yeah, I would go option. Based on the question, I'd go option 2, but I'd prefer Hermoso over Kiwior.
I would go with option 2. And yeah, it's I don't know if I'd really make too many changes there. Galeno, Gonzalez, Coop, Kiwior, I'm not huge on. But I mean, let's take a look at the list. So the rumors today, Gazzetta, everybody. So relax, okay? But Gazzetta stating that Clement Lenglet is at the top of the list. Player already has been sounded out by Juve in recent months and put on standby. Sporting director could now make a move after missing out on Toribo. Lenglet is very, very low on the list for me out of guys that we have. So the guys that were mentioned, you had Lenglet, you had Kiwior, you had Hummels, you had Senisi, Saltuto, obviously Hermoso. Who's the best out of the rest? Let's put it this way. Who's the best out of the rest here, if you're looking?
No one. I would literally go for none of them. If those are the options, I've said it earlier, switch. I don't think any of them would offer, would be better than Danilo at that position. To be honest, I would change focus to fullback. I said that in the beginning. If those are the options, not for me.
Yeah. Trim, who's the best out of the rest there?
Oh, if I have to pick from that list, I like Hermoso, and I honestly, shout out to our boy Adam. I think I'm gonna get behind that Hummels train, man. If he's a free, maybe take him for a year or two. I don't know. I don't see why not. Just as
I'm I
another
might
roster
be
player.
Kiwi War's not big for me, but I'd probably go that route.
Yeah.
Um, maybe hope for the familiarity with Malta and whatnot and everything like that, but it is very underwhelming, I will say. Very, very underwhelming list. So, yeah, is what it is. We're gonna keep it rolling here. You got man, storm the barn. You got a bunch here still. Let's try and machine gun a few of these. Would you consider a Champions League spot finish and good runs in Copa, no trophies, as enough for Malta's first campaign? I mean, yeah, we keep talking about it's the context. Did the team grow through the first season? And the first season's almost a wash, but like Champions League spot finish is like a must,
Yeah.
is
Has to
a
happen.
must.
Yeah, for sure.
Bare bones minimum expectations. Good runs in the cups, that's what we want. In a first year of a full scale rebuild, you want to be able to compete on all fronts. So I would say, yeah.
Mhm.
The diehard in me is saying, oh no, you got to win a trophy, whatever, but that's just not realistic. It's not
Yeah,
realistic.
that.
But I will say we have a shot at winning Supercopa. We have a shot at winning Coppa Italia. And
Mhm.
let's see what happens. We win
Yeah,
in the league,
I-
lads. Fucking rights. Okay? I love
yeah.
somebody planting that
Context.
flag there, okay?
To
We're winning the league, lads.
yeah.
There you go. Comment on the live
Amen.
right there. Let's go. I like it. Now, let's just keep machine gunning these guys. Do you think Spalletti coming out and making a statement that anyone who doesn't play regularly has no place in the national team will knock the much needed sense into Chiesa to behave correctly? Honestly,
No.
No.
I don't think I don't think Spalletti got off to such a hot start with the Azzurri, and I don't know how much
No.
impact or influence he's holding over players, so to speak. But
Yeah. If his dad and his agent and his parent club are not enough, then I doubt the Azuri coach would have any effect,
and
like on his decisions.
even the last part of that question needed sense, like knock some much needed sense into Chiesa to behave correctly. We don't really know how he has been behaving. It's hunches, it's what we're feeling, it's what we're processing with the information we're giving. Whether that information is 100% accurate or not, it's all up in
Well,
the air.
when that story comes out, we can lean either way. We could say, you know what, Chiesa was right.
Yeah.
That's disrespectful behavior. We literally know nothing, and we heard everything from every media outlet out there, and everything is a question mark right now around Chiesa, Juve, and everything that followed.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's get her going here. 99% of all wingers are very inconsistent. It's the nature of the position. That's
I
not
agree.
a question. It's a statement. But 99% of all wingers are very inconsistent. That is a very high percentage. Inconsistent in terms of production, maybe, but 99% inconsistent in terms of play, I'd probably say no.
No. Yeah, you can as a winger, you can affect the game in so many different ways, but not produce on the stat sheet. But you
Yeah.
can be contributing to build up. You can be contributing to offensive play and patterns, right? Like, yeah, that's a weird one. Like
And
I
he
ninety nine
claims not to
percent.
storm the Bard. Okay, yeah. But a statement nonetheless. And yeah, I don't know. Omer, 99% of all
No,
wingers?
99% is high, but the expectations from wingers today and the way they play are so much lower than what we can expect. Because if you factor in guys like Robin and Ribery and Eden Hazard in his prime. There aren't many like these walking around Europe right now, and the rest are kind of unimpressive. Like an Anthony, for example, is that a guy that gets near any big team in a realistic world in the early 2010s? No. So the level of expectations from wingers right now and what you would call the cream of the crop is very bad, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So the expectations are down. I expect a lot less from wingers these days.
Yeah. Backup plan for Koopmeiners.
Hmm. I would have said Goodmanson, but it seems he's heading to Fiorentina.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe leave it at that and aim for something else. Like,
I
do
would.
do we have an option B?
Yeah, it's Fagioli, and
Yeah.
spread out that money that you'd be spending on Coop to bolster the wings and actually try to get like maybe another top target, like bring in Gonzalez obviously at 30 or 35, whatever it is, and then try to get
hmm
another winger valued at that price that's pretty
Yeah, I
consistent.
mean,
That
60 million can get you a lot of playmakers today,
yeah.
a lot of so-called number 10s.
Who's on the
But
list out there for like that role, that playmaking role? Like James Rodriguez was out there and thrown out a name and whatever. What's the terms around him? On a
Yeah.
flyer with no
mhm,
commitment would be nice, but and I'd probably do it. Or I'd say, you know
yeah,
what? Douglas Luiz plays advanced
I was just gonna say
with
that. Yeah.
Fagioli because he
Yeah.
looks good. Like the guy looks good. He's a baller. Okay, you get Luis advanced with Fagioli rotating out of that spot, and maybe you pick up a solid midfielder to base out. And it's not Coop that could come in and necessarily take that role, but you work with the other guys and you pick up another midfielder just in general. A lot of shouts for the guy off Celtic there. I don't know enough about him to really speak on him, to be quite honest. O'Reilly, like he
O'Reilly,
literally
yeah.
only popped up because of this whole Koopmeiners thing and Atalanta looking at him, whatnot. And then whether Juve was messing with them or not about interest. And then all of a sudden everybody says, just pick him up. I don't know enough about him. But I know
Yeah.
with Juve's history on certain types of players, I don't trust the last name O'Reilly in general to be effective at Juventus. You know? I don't know. It's a tough call. But there is a guy, a little bit older, Western Canada, will fight for the badge, loves the club, will die for them. Little old, 40 years old, but hey.
In his prime. In his prime.
It doesn't peak until 40, everybody. Doesn't peak until 40. Okay. What does it say about the level of desperation when we have Sule on record saying Mota wanted me to stay, and yet the clubs had no choice to sell a wanted young talent just for 25 million euros? Who wants to take on this bad boy?
I think that's the reality of how bad Juve were. I mean, okay, let's say Rabiot had uh, still had a contract with Juve for two seasons. How much would you think is worth it paying for him if someone wants to buy him? 30,
Ra-
40?
Rabiot?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say between 30 and 40.
Yes, so apparently even zero is not enough for other clubs and is still free on the market. So our valuation of some of these players is kind of not realistic with what's really going on. Like the players coming out of Juve are not worth as much as most of us think. And I would have rated Sule higher, but if Juve bought Sule now from Roma for 40 million after he's been on loan at Frosinone and paid 30, 40 million, I'd say it's an overpricing.
Yeah. I
I'd say I'm
agree.
not happy with that. So 25 million, if I flip it and look at it the other way, as we were the buyers, sounds about right.
Yeah. I mean, we're looking at values right across the board plummeting, and it's not really just us, but obviously everyone we're looking at because of how? Because of the treatment we've always historically gotten. Like, we know this. Juve comes, it's top. It's always top dollar in Italy, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just difficult. But to say a level of desperation, again, it's a product of the circumstances. Like, who are you going to sell? Who are you going to sell to make up the moves? Your mercato doesn't even begin until you make the sales. It's not desperation. Like, Mota may have wanted him to stay. Sule wanted to stay. But you know what? It's more the timing, more than it has anything to do with coach and or player. It's the situation we're in, and the reality of the situation is we don't even begin our mercato, and why would you bank on the guys that are dead weight, that are going to bring barely any capital, that are still not really going to free up your mercato? It's more just about freeing up salary with those guys. You can't bank on those guys. You can't bank on those moves. But Sule, you can, because he's young, up and coming, and he wants to play. These other guys, they're playing games. They're playing games and they're calling Giuntoli on his bluff, whatever. Guess what? The young guys can't call out a bluff because they need the minutes. They need, at the beginning of their career, to go that route. It's not a sign of desperation. It's the reality of where we are on the roster. He was given a mess, and it was always heading to be ugly. It's funny. I see the post now by other channels, etc., and everybody, and it's like, oh, things are getting ugly. I called it at the beginning and told everybody, get ready for this to get ugly when you're staring down the barrel of contracts that are ending, and it's a laundry list of guys. It's going to get ugly.
Wasn't it exactly the same with Rovella last season?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, pretty much.
And does everyone talk about Rovella now?
No.
Yeah, what happened with that, right? So there you go. But what I would say is, one
we
thing I
need
just
to
want
see
to
how he does for Roma, and then we can actually judge if,
Yeah.
if it was underpricing. But at the moment, no. I don't think
Yeah.
it's desperation. If we had Kostic, McKennie, Milik, all those guys sold by July 15, Sule would still be a Juve player.
I knew this son of a bitch was going to come in here with that. I loved Rovella. I wanted Rovella to stay. I knew you were going to do that, Alex. Hey, what's happening with Caviglia? Get out of here. Get out of here.
Yeah.
So, Trim, you had something that you wanted to comment on that.
Yeah, just about Sule. I mean, you also have to take into account, yes, he wanted to stay, but he also accepted the deal to Roma, and then he's also, in a way, it's like him kind of playing up to the fan base, trying to say, look, I love my time at Juve, I love playing for Juve, I love the fans, so it's you got to take everything, it's a little bit like tongue-in-cheek, he's saying, the coach wanted to keep me, but they ended up selling me for 25, whatever. It's take that into account too from the player side of things. You know what I mean? Don't just I feel like we'd be reading into it too much by saying we're desperate. There's so many factors, right?
Yeah, and the whole value questioning and everything, and selling guys on cheap and whatnot. Listen, guys' value is simply what a team is willing to come in and pay for. You can ask whatever the hell you want. At the end of the day, it doesn't really mean anything if a team's only willing to go to a certain price. And if the offers aren't there, then it kind of dictates where it's at,
Yeah.
So we're not in a position to just say, yeah, okay, we're not selling anybody. What were we going to do? Not even sell those guys, not even be able to act in the mercato and get stuck with the deadwood? And then not even come close to showing any type of progress or work towards FFP, face a 40 million euro fine, and be even further back?
Yeah.
We got to move, people. We got to move. We got to do what we got to do. There's no time for feelings and sentiments involved at this particular moment in time, whether we have some attachments to some of these players or not. It's tough. Oh, yeah, that's just the FIGC that goes by transfer markets value there, those clowns. What a bunch of asshats, man. All right, but the Storm the Barn, as far as Storm the Barn goes, that kind of wraps them up. An update on the news, because I see, updates on Koopmeiners. The updates are that we're still pushing. And yesterday, the big guys come out and they said that there was good progress made. Still a lot of optimism around it get finalized, but this is the mercato and things can change like that, and we all know it. We've seen it. So we wait. We do have an attack Gonzalez appears to be the front runner right now, as it appears to be close again to those same big guns there. Gonzalez is close. Galeno might be on hold. Conceição has been added in there, apparently given to Juve on loan, offered up on a loan. I'm going to ask, out of Galeno, Gonzalez, Conceição, everybody in the chat right now and our panel, rank them in the order you would have them as priority for pickups. Omer.
Gonzalez, Galeno, Conceição.
Exactly like that. Okay. Trim.
Gonzalez, Conceição, Galeno.
All right. Man, a part of me really thinks Conceição would just go off with Malta's game. I'm going to say... I think I have actually Galeno, Gonzalez, Conceição. But I could go Gonzalez, Galeno, then Conceição. But Conceição on a loan should be anything, regardless. So let's change the question. If it's buying two of them, or getting Conceição on a loan and buying one of them, which option would you prefer? Buying both Gonzalez, Galeno, or taking Conceição on a loan and buying one of the other two?
I like the loan. I like the loan for Conceição and then buying Gonzalez as the option. That's why I kind of went down that route, because I know that Conceição sounds like it's going to be a loan potential. So save a little bit more money to use in the market. But Galeno at 30 is not terrible.
Just looking at his Champions League stats this season, like 5 goals and 3 assists, that more than any of our players have done since, I don't know, Ronaldo, maybe.
Yeah.
That's why he edges it out. He edges it out for me, and is ranked above Conceição. Conceição still seems young. I don't mind him, but if we're talking about immediate leap in quality, I think it's Galeno and Gonzalez.
Buy Galeno, loan Conceição. Yeah, it's... You know what? I'll be quite honest. I'm happy with any of them. I'm happy with any of those guys in the attack, to be quite honest. So that's a positive. That's a positive there. In terms of the defense, we went over that. And in terms of other news, we went over Lenglet there. The squad list tomorrow, we have our preseason match in Sweden. All right. And the squad list is out for keepers, obviously, Pinsolio, Di Gregorio, Perin. Defenders there, Bremer, Gatti, Danilo, Cambiaso, Cabal, Savona, and Raui. And then you have midfielders, Locatelli, Thuram, Fagioli, Douglas, Luiz. And forwards, Vlahovic, Yildiz, Weah, Sekulov, and Mangula. What are we looking at in this game? What are we looking at? What are we looking for, lads?
Well, that's a much bigger test than what we had so far, and Atletico actually looked really good. They had a solid transfer market. I think they're even landing Julian Alvarez from City. So yeah, they're a very good team, and we almost always had troubles against them. Last time we played them in preseason, we lost like 4-0. If I remember correctly, 2 seasons ago.
Yeah.
I don't know, expectations. I don't expect us to win. I think they're a far better team as things stand right now. But again, individual work. See how other players are getting integrated into the team. A lot of eyes on the new signings, obviously. Luiz and Cabal would be my guys to watch, and just because I'm very interested with the way they're playing, and they offer something that we kind of missed. But that's about it. I still think Atletico will dominate most of the match.
Trim, what do you think?
Yeah, I just want to see more of the same from what we've seen, more so even in the last game. Like Malta's ideas becoming more like robotic in their brains in terms of how they build up and from the back, and just the constant rotation, stuff of that nature. I mean, focusing on a few specific players, like I'd like to see how Fagioli looks at this stage in training camp, and because he's coming off a year where he didn't play, right? Little to no games last season. And And then just, yeah, more of just watching the new guys like Cabal. Louise is obviously a treat to watch. Turam has been really solid. And then, I'm going to focus more on, because I noticed the last game too, there was some comments about, I saw that Yildiz wasn't really getting the ball as much because he's on that outside left side. He wasn't really, like, the way that we kind of build up from the back and distribute, it's like he wasn't really getting as many touches. So I'd be curious to see, like, if he'll figure out a way, or they'll figure out a way to, like, get the ball to him as a bit more as well, to get him involved, because it seemed like he wasn't really as involved as maybe he would have been under a different style of play, like last season and whatnot. So yeah, just be curious to see kind of a little bit of that. And then obviously Dusan Vlahovic, man, we got to see, is he, when he gets his opportunities, is he going to start to be able to bury them? Because right now he's been off to a slow start. And historically speaking, he's been a slow starter. And then come the first Serie A matches is when he starts to go off. Like last year, he went off in the first 3-4 games of the season after coming off a slow preseason. So he's kind of been notorious for that. But I'd like to hope and think that Dusan can start to get going a bit going into that Como match.
Yeah, I'm more looking at just, again, system, style, how we measure up to a project that's definitely further along. That's actually done good work in the Mercato. Atletico doing some solid moves in the Mercato, and they're further along, and we're right smack dab at the beginning. Yeah, could be a heavy dose of reality in terms of where the project stands, but I want to see us give them problems. That's what I'm looking for. I want to see us make it hard for them. Make life hard for a team that has an established project that has done good work in the Mercato. That's all I want to see out of tomorrow's game. I want to see us continue to build on the ideas. I want to see us generate these opportunities and work better offensively. Because right now, I feel okay with everything in the game, but I still feel like offensively in the final third, there's something that is missing. It's not a personnel thing. It's mainly been, no matter who's played in the 10 role, we have not been able to get them involved in the game. So I want to see progress made in the final third of the pitch. But other than that, I want to see us just simply make life difficult for a good squad.
Which will be very hard, because Atletico are, in my opinion, at least the best team to counter attacking football.
Yep.
Like, they do the best in Europe. They're giving hard times to any team they played, Liverpool, Barca, Real. And so, yeah, my expectations for a win at least are very low, just because they're so drilled in just holding out against attacking teams and hitting on the break. And I don't expect a whole lot, and just watch specific things during the match.
Yeah, let's see what happens for that game. Watch along, baby. You know it. It's going to be 6 a.m. my time, but we're going to rock the live watch along. I hope to see you all there, all right? Actually, I guess I should find a feed before announcing it, so I don't know where the hell it's being aired, but I'll sort that out. Keep eyes on it, though. I'm sure I'll find something, all right? If not, shout out to Adam again, who was huge, clutch last week when Juve's website friggin' crashed, okay? Luckily, he was dishing it out. He was like a bot in there in the chat, hooking everybody up with the links, getting us looked after. So big shout out to him. But I'll find a feed. We'll make it happen. Big one tomorrow as far as the last kind of dress rehearsal before we get into the season, okay? You guys, hey, there's a lot of Mercato left. Let's see. If you feel it's a failure, hey, that's your right, okay? For me, I still think he's the face of a mess. He did not create Giuntoli. I think he's doing the best under the circumstances. Could it be better? Of course it could be better. But was it ever in our hands what would make it better? Not really. Let's see what happens. Let's see what he can cook up down towards the end of this Mercato. You guys have a great weekend. Like I said, hope to see you all tomorrow morning for that watch along. Stay tuned. I'll leave a post if it's not going to happen, but I'm pretty confident I'll be able to find a feed and we'll make it happen, okay? Trim, Omer, always an absolute pleasure. You guys enjoy your weekend, and We'll take care. Live chat, always absolute fire. AJC Army, second to none. No matter what, and no matter where we stand on the opinions, divided or not, we're all still bonded through the love of La Vecchia Signora. And we all are out for the same outcome. Juve succeeding and thriving and excelling. Let's see. We might need some patience, though. We might need a little bit more patience than has been required up until this time. Let's see. Till tomorrow morning. Fino alla fine. Forza Juventus. And to all the Chihuahuas out there, te. Okay, amici di nessuno, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Yeah.